senior moment. I'm not a senior yet.
With default, you think it would be. There you go.
I guess there we go. I don't want to pick the webcam's microphone. I don't even know how that one works. But there we go. Sorry about that, y'all. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I'm your host, Kalari GXC, aka 10. It's November the 12th, 2021, and there's a lot to talk about tonight. So we're going to get ready to get things started. Tonight's topic is anti racism. And as I touched upon last week, it has been a really trying time for many of us. There are two major trials in the news, but they're far from the only issues we've had with racism. And I know a lot of people, like I had an idiot try to confront me, and I use confront very lightly on Twitter earlier today about my opinion on Kyle Rittenhouse. He decided to ask me, well, what was the race of the people who got shot by him? That doesn't matter. The fact that a white kid thought that he was above the rules, that he could take a gun that he was not legally allowed to own, cross state line, and murder two protesters is a problem that people want to get away from. So when you step to me online, when I'm talking about the racial implications of people like Kyle Rittenhouse being able to get out on bond after murdering two people, and it's clear as day that he did it. They can't spin the narrative any other way from the fact that he took their lives. So they've taken to vilifying the victims, calling them rioters instead of protesters, everything to shift the language in code speak. So we need to talk tonight about code speak, about those of you who want to declare yourself anti-racism but not do the work. It is going to be a busy night. But what I really want to do tonight, because I felt bad about this last week too. I want to get his victims' names because that was messed up for me. I honestly get upset that I did not bother to say their names last week because they deserve to have their names said. Okay, let's see. They're only talking about Mr. Grosskreutz, who had a gun on himself that got shot in the arm. I want the names of the victims, and that's the problem with online and the media right now. It's very frustrating that you gotta go through all this just to get their names. All right, there we go. Anthony Huber, which that name sounds so familiar, and Joseph Rosenbaum. And then Gage Grosskreutz is the only one who actually survived. He was the one that was shot in the arm. But Anthony Huber passed away from being murdered, and Joseph Rosenbaum passed away from being murdered by that 17-year-old who should not have even had access to an AR-15, should not have been allowed to cross state lines. He didn't even live in Wisconsin. And the fact that they're trying to twist this narrative that he was somehow going there to protect the neighborhoods, that he was somehow the hero in the situation. No, he murdered two people, shot another, and got bond. There are kids that can't even walk around in their own fucking neighborhoods wearing a hoodie. There are kids who can't be in certain neighborhoods past a certain hour. There's still sundown towns in our country. And you're going to tell me that this person willingly went and committed murder with his fake ass cry act. And that's another thing. I did not want to watch anything about the trial because I'm really sick of it. I'm sick of seeing the double standard in this country for when somebody willingly does something that they know wasn't right. You didn't have any right to go and take somebody's life. But the fact that they tried to treat this kid from the get like he was some Boy Scout, some hero was bad enough. But people started showing clips on like YouTube and other media sources of that fake tear show that he tried to do on the stand. And my brain just went, My only tears are for the people who can't speak up. There was absolutely no reason why a 17-year-old should feel motivated to get an assault rifle and go to a protest. But that is how deep and insidious racism is in our country right now. And so many people, y'all just think, oh, let's not talk about it, Tin. If we stop talking about racism, it'll go away. Stare at you in 400 years of America existing. Stares at you as a black woman. Racism hasn't gone away. It has gotten even worse, if you ask me, because you have these people who believe that, well, we gave some of you freedom, some of you have success. We can even trot out a few youth for a couple of dollars and say everything's okay. Just ignore the fact that you are still being lynched on a ridiculous level. Ignore the fact that police treat you automatically as a threat and the bad guy. Ignore the fact that you can't go shopping without people assuming the worst about you. You can't just enjoy your best black lives because there's always people who think that you're out to do them wrong, even when you're not. And there is just so much nuance to being anti-racist that I think a lot of you don't understand. So I really want to break it down tonight, but I really had to start with the Rittenhouse thing because there are a lot of people weighing in on this and a lot of conservatives still trying to spin it, attacking certain celebrities because they have an opinion on the fact that this boy was fake fucking crying on the stand. He had all that sympathy for himself. He didn't have respect for life. And you never have respect for life when you think people who are different from you are less than. There was absolutely no reason to murder those protesters. They were not doing him any harm. There was no neighborhood for him to protect. He wasn't even in that state. He didn't live in Wisconsin. So he wasn't protecting the neighborhood. So that narrative needs to stop. But it's not because Fox News loves selling that kind of bullcrap. They love to spin that whole lore of the heroic Boy Scout. He's just like your boy, but he shouldn't be. And if you're a parent tonight, you need to start talking to your kids. They have a lot of unchecked anger, unchecked hormones. It isn't easy. I talk to my kid all the time. He's half the time grunting. Oh, what's wrong? That's just teenagers, but he knows he can talk to me. He can talk to Greg. That is what being a parent is about. Some of you don't want to talk to your kids. You see how angry and frustrated they get. You see how disrespectful some of them get. That don't happen in my house. The first time my kid will ever try to utter something like, shut up, mom, it would be the last. Some of you play around with your sons and your daughters until it's too late. Y'all let that disrespect and anger go unchecked, and then this shit happens. My kid is 16 years old. I can't even imagine him going, I'm going to go hang out this late. I'm going to get a gun and go cross state lines and murder people. It don't happen in our households like that. And I'm not acting like black households are full of saints. We know better, but we're not a monolith either. Those of us who are doing right by our kids get tired of being lumped into the ones that don't. But that's the reality for us. We don't get a break from that. But nobody's coming down on Mama Rittenhouse for how she raised her murderer. And that needs to be a thing. And then you go to Georgia, because Georgia is always full of problems. I know, I lived there for a bit, with the Ahmaud Arbery trial. And like I said last week, the fact that that trial is an almost all-white jury bothers me. In this day and age, trusting almost all white peers to convict somebody of a lynching, because that's what that was, shouldn't be a thing. I'm sorry, but the majority of your demographic can't be trusted right now. And I know that's going to get some feathers ruffled. I know it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. I'm not here for your feelings. When we are burying our family members to not just the pandemic, but to hate itself, I don't have time for people's feelings anymore on these issues. I have to be blunt because a lot of you are playing around with the terms anti-racism. It's a new cool thing to say online. It's a new cool thing to declare yourself without putting in the work. And anti-racism is work. And it's a lot of work. It is a lifetime commitment. So if you don't want to do that, don't declare it. And if you want to declare it, don't try to be friends with somebody like me because I'm going to call you out on it. One of the things that I knew I had to start doing in order to take the path of anti-racism is to check everything that I condone, everything that I still might not have gotten upset about, all the stuff that I used to do. It's a lot of self-reflection. Hi, welcome to the chat, G. Feldman. The mom is guilty, definitely, to me. And I can't believe that she is not being tried and convicted of something. But according to the Fox narrative, oh, she didn't take him. Somebody else did. There's always somebody else. They play that nonsense all the time. And we've got to stop allowing them to control the narrative on this. Because point blank, I don't care if the two protesters argued with him. I don't care if one of the protesters had a pistol on him either. The fact of the matter is, a 17-year-old had an illegal weapon, murdered two people, and shot another one. He should be in jail. The fact that he was able to get out on bond was vexing enough. But the fact that people are trying to treat him like what he did was no big deal when two innocent lives were lost and the third was harmed very badly, nah, it's not okay. And the thing with anti-racism is we need more people who aren't black to be able to see how damaging stuff like this is. When you put somebody like Kyle Rittenhouse up against somebody like Jordan Davis, who a lot of you might not even think about, unless you're his mother, Lucy McBath, who is a Georgia representative now. You think about he was 17 in the car with his friends at a gas station, just listening to music like every other teenager, and some horrible racist murdered him because his music was too loud. We don't get the luxury of living our lives in peace. So when you have somebody who is already the default setting in our society, deciding that he's going to be the law, he's going to be judge, jury, and executioner, he's going to take his dumbass 2 states away and take lives, don't ask me to have sympathy for anybody in the Rittenhouse family right now. They know what they raised because they are the same level of ignorance that some of y'all don't want to confront. Some of you think we can just look away from, but we've got to stop looking away because this anger, this toxicity, this I need to prove my manhood nonsense has boiled over. These shootings aren't new, and I don't want to become numb to them. I'm sick of us being the targets, but we're not the only ones. It wasn't even a few months back that several Asian women and a few men, I think, 8 people, died to a guy who was supposedly just having a bad day. The rise of easy access to weapons that people should not have. Assault rifles should not be in the hands of fucking civilians. I say this as a child who was raised in a military family. There's absolutely no fucking good reason for a non-military member to own an assault rifle. Those are weapons of death. They have only one purpose: to kill as many people as quickly as possible. And people, oh, you're a breathing heart liberal. All you care about is hugging trees. You don't care. My family owns guns, man. I told you, I am from a military family. We were all trained on how to use guns. The reason why I don't keep a gun in my house, and I've made it clear, is because of my mental health. I know that the most efficient way to do anything to stop me from being in pain would be to have a gun. I gotta put this on YouTube, so I'm trying not to be graphic, but I think you know what I'm alluding to. The main reason why people with mental health issues should not have easy access to guns, the main reason why I am disciplined enough to not keep a gun in my house is because of the training I had from my grandfather, who is a fucking military vet, who made it clear that guns are not toys. When you use this, you are using this with seriousness. When you use a gun, you are using it to end a life. It is not to play around with. It is not to hold and look cool. You are putting this in your hand because you are ready to take a life with it. And that stuck with me. And I know some people think, oh, that's kind of harsh to do to a kid. But kids, if you're going to play around with that with your kids, if you're going to teach them how to be men, you need to be correct with that shit. Because some of these people think, oh, I'll pose with a gun. This is cool. These are not fucking toys. These are not props. They are there to do a job, and the job is to kill things. And some of you want to act like, oh, yeah, guns don't kill people. People kill people with guns. So if you're gonna fucking play, oh, I've got to be that tough family. I've got to defend my family. I got to teach my kid out of the hunt. You need to make it clear, like my grandfather made it clear, that every single one of us that has gone to the range, every single one of us that learned how to shoot was told the same thing. This is not a toy. But you play around because our society is just strangled by bigotry right now. And that's why I want to really talk about how what it means to be anti-racist. Because some of you like to throw that term around, but you don't understand it. Anti-racism isn't just for racism against Black people. Because while that directly affects me, racism affects everybody. Even the people that are doing it, they are haggard and toxic because that hate does nothing. It builds up in your system and it comes out of your pores. Very rarely do you see somebody who is engaging in that level of racism that doesn't look like death warmed over. But on top of that, they are angry and violent and just, they don't have any reason for this. But hate is illogical. So when you say you're anti-racist, it can't just be, well, I stand for Black Lives Matter, but I'll let that joke about Native Americans or indigenous people go by. Or I don't really care for this group of people, or Muslims bother me, or Jewish people bother me. When you say you're anti-racist, you have to be constantly checking yourself for any form of bigotry. I'm gonna let you know something. You're not gonna be 100%. There is no human, especially given our society, that can say they are 100% free of any kind of stereotypical thoughts, any kind of bigoted thoughts. But it takes active self control, discipline, and reflection to get away from those thoughts. You don't have to actively engage in racism to be a part of the problem, too. One of the things that I realized, that even though I was not actively going after another group towards hate, I wasn't checking my friends when they made comments. I wasn't making sure that I wasn't condoning things that were hurtful, especially when I was younger. Everybody gets that part in life where you just want to hang out with your friends. You want to be a part of the crowd. You don't want to rock the boat. And you put up with things that now you couldn't say those things around me. I've cussed out family for their anti-LGBT stances, their anti-Semitic stances if they've showed that. I don't play around with those things anymore. But when you're young and you're just trying to fit in, you put up with things that you shouldn't. But if you're not willing to even admit that, and a lot of you aren't. Case in point, one of my dear friends, Case, questioned a few months back about people who condone things that were anti-LGBT. And I told her point blank, I used to laugh at jokes that I do not find funny. Used to mock people that I didn't understand, especially when I was younger. I did not have the backs of my transgender sisters back in the day. And admitting that is painful because nobody wants to look like that kind of person. But if you don't admit the things you have done wrong, you're not ready to do the right thing because you think you can cover it up. You'll also be willing to let people around you say those things. And if you're still comfortable letting somebody just make a certain joke around you, or letting somebody talk shit about somebody because they're different around you, you're not ready for anti-racism. Another thing about being anti-racist that a lot of people don't get. Going red. One moment, y'all. Just want to make sure I don't lose connection. And let me know if it stops.
It did a second ago, but seems fine.
Okay. Another thing people need to understand about anti-racism that I don't think they understand is the othering factor. Some of you really want to do the right thing, and I feel you. I can feel the pain that some white women, especially that come to me and they ask me questions like I'm some kind of fucking woke whisperer. You got to talk to people like they're people. You ask me, how do you make black friends? How would you make a friend normally? Because that's how you make black friends. You need to stop talking to us like we are outside creatures and you're Richard Attenboroughing us. I feel like when people ask me questions like that, you're treating me like I'm some kind of different species. And I know that's probably not the way you want to convey yourself, but that is how it comes across. I'm a human being. If you talk to me like a human being, I'm going to talk to you like a human being. And I know that's not 100% for everybody, but that's the thing. Some of you treat black people like we're a monolith. Like you can just talk to any of us the same way, or if it's a one size fit all, and that's just not how it is. And when people come to me and like, Tim, well, I really want to talk to black women more, but I don't know how. How do you talk to your friends normally? And I get that there are some people with social anxiety. I talk about this a lot because it's a part of a lot of the stuff I go through with my mental health. I get that social anxiety could play a part, but I know that's not the case with a lot of these women. You have been raised in all white neighborhoods. Most of your friends have looked like you all your life. So for you, even talking to a black woman is like a quest. But I'm here to tell you, we're not so different. When I lived in Durham briefly, I, many of the moms groups was like, "Oh, you're so easy to talk to," and I was like, "I didn't think I wasn't." I don't talk a lot. A lot of times I listen. I've threatened a few people around them for my son's sake, but other than that, I'm just a mom. I don't understand why people treat black women or black men so vastly different. And you kill me because it's like, well, you never know what you're getting. People be wilding out. White people be wilding out too. I lived in the country. I've seen people that if I didn't live in the country as long as I did, and the old New York 10 would have seen these people, I would cross the road and not look back. So judging people based on their appearances without getting to know them, y'all need to let that go the way of the dinosaur. Get to know people. Some of the nicest, most down to earth people I met look like, I don't even want to say deliverance people. That they just had a vibe to them down in Florida when I was in school, especially, that I would have had preconceived notions if I hadn't lived amongst them as a neighbor. And talking with them and having them talk with me made me realize I can't judge every so called redneck as this I'm going to lynch you type. I realized that I had to let people prove to me who they were. But people don't give a lot of people who look like me that benefit of the doubt. And when you come at us to teach you about stuff that you can easily access, I have a friend that gives history lessons online constantly via Twitter. He just did an amazing thread about Nat Turner. Stop coming to black people to ask us basic ass questions that you can look up yourself. Books on how to not be racist. Why do you need a book to tell you that? Why do you need lesson aids to teach you how to be decent people? And it can't just be anti-racism. You need to strive to be an anti-bigot, period. Because racism is just one of the many isms that has been choking our society out. You need to work on your misogyny. I have had to undo a lot of internal misogyny, a lot of roles, like I said last week, that was baked into me being a female, that I don't want to keep passing on to newer generations. If we are going to survive and be better as a society, we have to get away from these hateful ideals that, oh, this person's different. Oh, this person's only function is this. Oh, this person's weak. Oh, this person's strong. Strength, weakness, all of that stuff are just ways of causing anxiety, ways of causing division where there shouldn't be, ways of keeping us from doing great things together as a species. And why? I could get into all different things of why, but the basic thing is power structure. If the people on the bottom are busy hating each other, getting into it with each other, we're not realizing that we really shouldn't be in the age of struggling anymore. We have digital technology. We have all kinds of technology that could be making life better for every human, but we're not there. Why? Because we have structured our society to still have and have nots, to still say that a person that doesn't look like you, act like you, walk like you, worship like you is different, so therefore you must not like them. Our society has been built to fail from its inception. Rivalry over actually building people up, guiding them towards skills that they like, making education actual good, positive learning experience. There is just so much that we could do if people were serious about being anti-racist and anti-bigoted. But like I said, some of you want to call yourselves that. You want to act like you're walking the path because it gets you followers. It gets you clicks and views. You think it's cutesy until somebody catches you stepping out. And that's another thing about anti-racism. We're not saints. I always get leery when people try to put me on some weird pedestal saying I'm a saint. I am just a person that knows pain. I know the pain that I went through being bullied younger. I know I don't want to put people through it. It's just the way it is. I'm also able to detach myself from most of the things that people say and just see things for what they are. And I realize there's no joy in it for me, hurting people. So if you want to call that kindness or whatnot, fine. But I don't see it that way. Kind people go out of their way to make other people happy. I don't do that. If what I say to people makes them happy, great. But that's not the whole point of why I do what I do. And I know some people don't understand that. And I can't make you not see what you want to see. But I always get wary that people are going to put me on an undeserved pedestal. And then I fall off of it because I'm human. I don't like everybody. I just go out my way not to hurt people. I'm not going to get along with everybody. That's just my personality. I don't go around condemning a whole group of people. And I know some people will go, well, Tim, but you already started off calling out white people. So how do you say? I know it's hard for some of you to believe that, but calling out the systematic oppression of my people is not condemning your whole demographic unless you're willing to admit that your whole demographic is the reason for this systemic oppression. I'm going to start doing that to you because some of you want to play these word games. If I'm not directly calling you racist, but I'm saying that a lot of your demographic indulges in racism, I don't need you coming looking for a pat on your head if it ain't you. I don't need you getting defensive if it ain't you. Because those two flags always tell me the type of person you are. I don't have a medal for your bare minimum. And I'm not a judge. I'm not here to hear your deposition on why you've done so much for my people because that's another line that makes me feel other. Like you're doing so much for black people. I've never once, out of anybody I've dated, out of any of my friends said, I've done so much for your kind. I would never utter that. It's a weird phrase that I've heard said to me way too much. And welcome to the chat, Terry. Exactly. There is just so much potential that gets lost that we don't even get to tap into because we are all still too busy fighting with each other over the most ignorant things. And that's why I want people who really want to go the path of anti racism and to realize that it is going to be a lot of work. And that work isn't rallying other people, that work isn't telling other people what to do. That work is on you, the person you see in the mirror every day. You need to be making yourself a better person because if you're not, there's nothing you can say to somebody else. How are you going to tell somebody how to live their life when you're not right with yourself? A lot of people think anti-racism is, I'll tell this person not to be racist. There, I'm anti-racist. No. Half the time, you're not going to even be around people that are like that anymore. Those people, you shouldn't even be comfortable being around those people anymore if you're anti-racist. But it's not going to be easy to cut them out. Thanksgiving is coming up. I know that there are people that I normally like and respect, that are going to be sitting across those tables from their relatives who are going to spout all kinds of ridiculous, hateful stuff, spoon fed to them by that garbage channel Fox News, or Fox propaganda, as I like to call them. And you'll smile and try to change the subject or act like it's not a big deal. But the fact of the matter is, people shouldn't feel comfortable being that way around you if you're anti-racist. They'll either not want to invite you to certain things, or they'll no, let's just not bring this up. And eventually they'll either start seeing, hey, this hate isn't getting me anywhere. I don't even get to talk to this person anymore because of my ideals. But what can I do to change? And that's when you can start talking to people. Because the thing I do agree with, which kind of pissed me off last week when I was talking about how many of my professional friends were going on about, you can't get on white women, they won't respond to that. I get that talking to people like human beings sometimes works out better. I'm just angry that we are still having the cognitive feelings of people who don't care. People who will storm school boards and talk about how teaching people our true history and how horrific it is. It's bad because it'll hurt their kids' feelings and make them hate being white. The goal is not to get white children to hate themselves. The goal is to get white children to stop seeing black children and Asian children and Hispanic children and Muslim children of any ilk from being different. It's to stop them from putting swastikas on synagogues. It's to stop them from seeing people as less than. Because when you teach them how horrific the past was and how we don't have to be that way in the present, we all get a better future. And I can't believe I have to break it down that basically, but some of you need to hear it that basic. Because you're trying to muddle the talks. You're trying to confuse everybody and make it be about, well, it'll make people feel bad. You know what makes a child feel bad? Being 7 years old, barely verbal at this point, walking home and having an older man who you really didn't know well but didn't do anything wrong to you, you didn't do anything wrong to him, utter the N-word at you because he was having a bad day. And unfortunately for that man, your mom is a bit psycho and went completely off on his ass. Which, my neighborhood reputation was shot at that point anyway. I didn't care. But the fact that my child at 7 already heard his first racial slur is something I couldn't shield him from it. And I am far from the only one who has these horror stories. So if you want to protect your precious baby from learning history, then let me protect my child from hearing that he's the N-word. I can't do that. I'm not storming school boards talking about, we have to teach this, but maybe we should. If you're sick of seeing these people who want to argue against getting their kids vaccinated, argue against social distancing and math, argue against teaching actual history, because that hurts their feelings. Maybe those of us who want history taught so that we can stop seeing these things repeat themselves, we need to be there because it's getting tiring. Y'all want to protect your kids from getting their feelings hurt. Well, how am I supposed to protect my child's self-esteem when I already know the world views him as a different species? I'm tired of having to get so real about this. But my life, my child's life, is constantly in peril because the society wants to view us as other. And that is what teaching history and being anti-racism is about, so that this becomes less of a problem until it becomes not a problem. Because we finally start realizing that cultural differences and looks doesn't stop a person from being a human being. How a person worships has nothing to do with me. That is their spiritual path. That is their life guidance. That is how they cope with this life. And it shouldn't be a big deal to you, whether they have it or they don't. That is their path. But we don't teach enough people that. Who somebody loves. If they are a legal adult and they are in a relationship with another legal adult, mind your business. And what a person looks like on the outside, some of the nicest, most sweetest people I hung out with, those people on first looks at them probably would have been like, I can't hang out with them. Most people have a bad rap when they're a biker. Most people think, well, if you're a biker gang, you're violent. I can't say all bikers are good people. I don't know all bikers, but the ones that I hung out with didn't treat me as anything but their friend because they're human beings. And you need to give people a chance. Some of the people that were the worst in my life wore suits and looked like upstanding citizens as they made people's lives hell just for the jollies. Some of you get this warped ideal of what a good person is and will spit on people who are actually good but just look a certain way or have a shadier past according to you. Oh, they did drugs, so they can't be a good person. Bullcrap. You know the pressures of society lead to so much of the drug and alcohol use in our society. You don't want people to do that to escape. Stop giving them reasons to need to escape. Some of you want to look down on somebody based on their looks and how they carry themselves, but you don't want to give them a chance to show you they're a human being because you think you derive power from that. But there is no power from hatred. It is an endless vacuum abyss that you have to keep feeding, and it gets you nowhere. And you're only remembered as that bigot who hopefully karma will come from. As you lose your job, being on TikTok or whatever other expose. Because we are in a day and age where a lot of you are fucking around and finding out. A lot of you throw your tantrums and throw the N-word out in public. And then your jobs are exposed. A lot of yous want to do little bigoted things against the LGBT and lose that management position. Some of yous are giving your anti-Semitic takes online and finding that your job security is no longer there. We are in a digital age. So I would suggest that if you wanted a time to turn around, change your tune, and start learning the very necessary yet painful process of being an anti-bigot, now would be the time. Because some of you think that you can get away with it because you have for years. But we are in a digital age. And a lot of you are finding out the hard way that businesses don't need you. For every one of you that need to go into a store and act like a fool and throw around slurs and stuff, there are plenty of people who will do the job and not cause the company issues. For all of you that get around your women's groups and think you're gonna say horrible things about Mexicans and make mockery and stuff, y'all are on blast on TikTok now. And you might still corral together and boo-hoo about the good old days where you could just be racist and not get in trouble for it. Them days are over. And I don't feel bad about it. Exactly, G. Feldman. And it's just so frustrating. One of the things that irked me, and I talked about it last week about I used my mom's phone number guy because I refuse to say his name. He's like Beetlejuice. The fact that they were amplifying him calling our nation a Christian nation. I get that there are a lot of Christians in America. There are a lot of Jewish people in America. There are a lot of atheists in America. There's a lot of Muslims in America. There's a lot of Catholics because Catholics don't like being called Christians and vice versa. There are a lot of pagans in America. We are a melting pot. There is not one national faith. People that do that one national faith tend to be a dictatorship. So we don't do shit like that. So it really troubles me when people trying to ding him or call him out retweet his garbage, thus spreading his toxic lie. If you know that America has no solid one foundation faith, don't argue with that idiot. Don't give him relevance or amplify his toxic words. It really is that simple. And if you are on the path of anti racism, you shouldn't be in a position where his words are on your timeline at all, even to call him out because he's ridiculous. At this point of anti racism, you should know who is worth your time and who's not. And anybody who makes their money off of stirring the pot, being like that, they're not worth your time. You have to learn that it's not your job to argue with every bigot. That will burn you out. I learned the hard way, and that's why I'm trying to teach these lessons. Because I know that some of you think, hey, well, maybe I should. Arguing with bigots from 2016 to 2020 aged me. Like my soul will never get back those years, that vitality that I lost arguing with people that I knew didn't have the capacity to think or reason. They get their jolly saying these harmful, hurtful things. It was a waste of my time and energy, but I did it anyway because I thought I had to. And you don't. They are seeking you out. I have never once in any of the crazy MAGA hats or Pepe Frog avatar using types ever went and seeked them out. It was always them coming to my page trying to rile me up. And that's how pathetic their lives are. Whenever somebody, even on YouTube, and it's very rare, and I want to thank people for that. I get a lot of mature followers. Even on YouTube, every once in a while, you might get like a weird comment or somebody that tries to troll, and I just kill them with kindness. They sought me out. I didn't seek them out. I'm not looking for these people. If you're going to take the effort to waste the time to interact with me to say something negative, I know that I don't owe you any more of my time. You wasted the opportunity. I will talk to anybody like a human being because that's the respect that I want back. But the moment I see that all you're here to do is cause harm, there are plenty of tools online to where I don't have to know you, man. So honestly, when I see those of you who want to go the path of anti-racism arguing constantly with these people, I'm like, it's not going to get you anywhere. All that energy you're wasting on them, you could be doing things to help communities in need. You could be doing stuff to better yourself. Stop wasting your energy on these people. I don't want to call them lost causes because that's another thing about being anti-racist. Anybody can walk this path. People want to talk about I know his last name was Bird. I don't want to get his first name wrong, but he was a representative and they threw him around a lot during the 2016 election because Hillary Clinton she did some kind of intern for him. He was somebody who was racist when he was younger. And he made the conscious decision to walk away from that and get better. And like anybody who did the damage of racism, he was always going to have that legacy of, yeah, you were in the Ku Klux Klan. It didn't matter all the good he did and the people who seen it, the damage was still done, but he still walked the path of doing the right thing. And that's the thing that a lot of people, especially in this digital age where everybody wants to be viral, everybody wants to be famous, everybody wants to look at me, you don't seem to understand that if you're being anti-racist for people to look at you, you're in it for the wrong reason. You need to have these thoughts, whether your friends believe you, whether your family believes you, whether you have a history of hate and you just want to get away from it. Because there are always going to be people who don't believe your intentions are good. That's not your problem. You're not doing this to tell other people, hey, look at me. I love everybody. Because if you're doing that, I don't trust you. I'm from New York. Maybe it's the New Yorker in me. I don't trust anybody that's like, I love everybody. I don't love everybody. I came from a city where you couldn't go 5 steps without running into a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. I do not trust anybody who's like, I love everybody. No, you're not for me. I am very realistic about the way I feel about humanity. I don't hate us as a species, but if we don't do better, I am Team Comet. Call me nihilistic, but our species has every opportunity to get better and we waste it. So if we don't start changing our mentality, changing how we view each other and grow as a species, what's the point? People talk about, oh, we need to get Space Force together to go out into the universe. Why? We haven't even gotten our shit together on this planet, and you want to send us elsewhere? So that we can have what? Interplanetary wars? I don't understand the logic of even trying to go into space right now when on our surface we can't even take care of the planet we're on. Until we start getting our shit together collectively as a human species. Miss me with that whole, well, we gotta explore what's beyond. No, we need to figure out why it is that we can't just live and be and grow together. It's not about liking each other all the time. It's just about respect. I don't have to like somebody to give them the respect that they deserve as a human being. They don't even have to like me. I don't want to be everybody's best friend. I don't think that's physically possible as an introvert. I'm happy when I'm in the house with just my son and Axiom. But I don't want people to ever feel like, well, she won't like me anyway. I give people a chance. And I know that people don't feel that same way about me. One of the things I remember living in South Carolina, one of the really brief issues I had with racism came from an older black woman. That's how insidious racism is. I was at a department store with kiddo, my grandmother. We were buying a whole bunch of stuff for Christmas. I had come into some money and I had I don't know, I think it was a platinum card from the bank my grandmother set me up with. I don't think people understand that because I don't have money on my own. But my family had money. It's a mess. It doesn't make them better people. And I have horror stories. But my family has always had financial structure. My main family. I'm not saying my extended family. So I knew having a banking system and all that stuff was ingrained in me. So going to the department store was nothing. That's all we did in New York. But going to one in South Carolina was the first time I ever experienced not only being profiled, but having the lady actually act like I couldn't afford the items I wanted to buy, which was a pair of earrings. And the attitude and just the way she talked down to me until I pulled that card out after requesting another cashier and let the store know that if that's the kind of attitude that you are going to treat your customers with, you will no longer get my business. And I kept it civil because it wasn't that far off from when I worked corporate. So I had that business voice. But I was so angry at that time because it just felt like you're a black woman. I know you have gone through the same things that I've gone through when it comes to people thinking less than of you, and yet you treated me like this. And I realized then that racism is a mentality. And some of the most anti black isms came from within. So if you want to walk the path of anti-racism, you need to understand that much. It is so toxic and insidious that even the people directly affected by it also push it. And that is why we have to have these real conversations about it because we cannot tackle the issue if we're not real about the issue. If we're not real about how deep and detrimental it has been having all of these years of dehumanization, of redlining, of putting us in one neighborhood and saying it's not a safe neighborhood, of white flight into supposed safe and affluent neighborhoods. Affluent should mean income. And if that's the case, I've lived in so-called affluent neighborhoods. And some of the most depraved and debauched people can sometimes come from them affluent neighborhoods because they think money will let them get away with anything. So let's stop with all these fucking coded words about what's safe and what's not. People are raped by so-called affluent men. People are murdered by so-called affluent people. People with affluence tend to think that there's no problem destroying another life just for shits and giggles. So I don't understand this whole desire to be affluent. Just be decent. And then you want to talk about safe neighborhoods. Because for you, if there's too many dark people in that neighborhood, it can't be safe, then the crime level. Stop it. So many people are just trying to live. And you want to judge them based on their skin color or income levels. But you don't want to give the proper education. You don't want to give them proper jobs. You don't want to make sure that everybody is having a well-rounded experience because then you feel like you're not getting more than. And until we get away from that attitude, exactly, privileged attitude, things aren't going to get better. But I'm telling you, that code speak drives me nuts. I watch a lot of like true crime narratives, especially on YouTube, and it never fails to hear the host talking about, oh, this person came from an affluent neighborhood. And it's like, you mean they came from a white neighborhood? Stop saying affluent. And a lot of those affluent tales always end in some kind of weird ass murder thing, especially murdering of their spouse or murdering of their families. And it's just like every time I heard the word affluent or slums for my people, or they lived in a kind of urban or harsh type setting, and it's like, really? I get that there are places that weren't safe. Like I said, I was born and raised in Staten Island. Where I lived wasn't a perfect place, but there were way worse areas. There was a place called Park Hill that my mom made it clear we weren't allowed to go there. My dad didn't listen to her because he had to do business there. Bad area. Like blood in the stairwells, people getting bang bang shot area. It was the Wild West. I don't look down on people who had to survive in Park Hill. That's just a reality. Get you don't get to pick who you're born to and where you're born into, and you do what you have to survive. But some people want to look down on the people that had to grow up there and are still growing up in that area. Because somehow you think that translates into personal power. But you know what would be more powerful? If by at this point in our time, we were actually ready to explore space and actually had space fleets and actually had the kind of healthcare and medicine and environmental wherewithal to be taking care of our planet enough to be trusted to be out there. But we can't get there yet because we're all still too busy hating the superficial stuff. And until we work on that, how are things going to get better? I just want people who say things like, I'm anti racist, or I want to be anti racist, but I don't know how, to understand that if you really want to walk this path, you've got to be willing to self reflect. You've got to be willing to expand your horizons. If you look at your group of friends and notice that it's not diverse, and that doesn't mean just go and bother people who are different unless you really plan on talking to them and being their friend. Don't just find a black person and burning your problems onto them. Because some of you do that and then you think, oh, we're friends, but that person isn't calling you. You can't reach out to them like you do your regular friends. That is not a friendship. That is you using a proxy to assuage your guilt. All of my friends, whether they are white people, black people, any human being that I call a friend, I know I can reach out to them. They know they can reach out to me because that is what friendship is. Now, I have said to all my friends, I am horrible because I hate talking on the phone. I don't reach out a lot when I'm writing, but I know that if they need to talk, they can shoot me a text. I will shoot them a text. We talk like normal. That is what friendship is. And if you don't have that, if you're just bothering or unburdening on a coworker, because a lot of y'all do this, you see that coworker who does her work, might be a little bit outgoing and stuff. And then all you do is complain at them about other people. All you do is want to talk about your issues with them. You don't really treat them like human beings. That is when you know that you're using them as a proxy. You need to have better friends, and they need to be your actual friends. And you need to be able to hear the real if you're friends with a black woman. Because a lot of you don't understand that. Sometimes we'll hurt your feelings, but we're not doing it out of maliciousness. We're doing it because we were raised to speak the truth. And we realize that the truth hurts sometimes. But if you're a friend, you're going to hear it and you're going to need to hear it. And if you're really friends with a black woman, you'll feel comfortable saying things with them. And not hateful, harmful things, Dadas. You will want to be able to say things like, hey, I noticed that this is going on. Or, hey, I noticed that you're slipping on this. That is the reality of being friends with somebody, for me at least. But some of you don't want that. You want that appearance of stuff. And then you wonder why it doesn't work out. I don't want to be somebody's black friend. I just want to be their friend. None of my friends have ever been classified by their orientation, their gender, their skin color. Yeah, I've had people when they talk about me, instead of just saying my name, because duh, I don't see too many white people naming their kids Tanisa, have to clarify the fact that I'm black. Don't do that. And I know some people are just ignorant. I helped a couple of friends when we were in Venice,ville get an apartment. And their landlord said to me, when you talked on the phone with me, I thought you were a white woman. And I was like, I don't know why. You didn't ask me to specify my race, and I'm not the one renting this, so I don't see why it matters. But that is the kind of ignorance that racism has. I don't want to, rain on people's parade, but some of you really don't understand how much othering affects, even when you're trying to be benevolent about it. And benign bigotry to me is just as bad as the malignant ones. Because the moment you start looking at me as just my skin tone, I know you don't see me as a full human being. And I feel like you're using me as a prop. And even if that's not your intention, until you start seeing how you speak to black people, how you speak to Hispanic people, how you speak to Asian people or Muslim people or Jewish people, the moment you start treating us as anything but fellow human beings, that's a problem. And you've got to work on that if you're going to be anti-racist. Because if you're not willing to see us as human beings, how are you going to stand up for us? How are you going to see the issues that are negatively impacting our communities? We need you to be better so that it can be better for all of us. And that way we can tackle the issues within our communities. Because as much as I want to keep going too, because it's 8 o'clock, but I do want to leave on this note. If you think that I'm saying this because, oh, black people don't have any problems, oh, other cultures don't have any problems, yes, we do. But we can't even begin to tackle our own in-home issues because we have to deal with the beast that is literally snuffing out our lives. So if you are serious about being anti-racist, you need to understand that. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Thank you, everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you, everybody who's constantly supporting G. Feldman, Terry, Antico, Ziana. Thank you, sweetie, for joining the chat. Beans, I know you're out there watching. Thank you, too. Axiom, always, I love you. I'm going to get ready to go heat up dinner, and I will see y'all all next week for a new Bonnet Chronicles. Thank you so much. Are you in the music? Okay.
Ooh, jam is adventure. Gathering glitter, fashion and fame. Jam is truly outrageous. Truly, truly, truly outrageous. Whoa, jam, the music's contagious. Outrageous. Jam is my name, no one else is the same. Jam is my name. We're misfits, our songs are bitter. We are the misfits, and we're gonna get her. Jam, the music's contagious. Outrageous. Jam is my name, no one else is the same. Jam is my name. Jam.
Yeah. Good night, y'all. Love you.